Hey all, so as promised, this is Meta's view of War 8 of Season 33, and we are going to be looking at iBomb and Toad for this. iBomb has the Defiance tag, so anytime buffs would hurt us, he's going to completely bypass that, and he also just deals an absolute ton of damage. So the healing on this particular node, Personal Space Regen, can get really intense. I've seen people struggle to outdamage it at all. As you can see, she's back up to full. So Meta knows that he's not supposed to punish her specials because that's going to give her an armor up, and that can send her unstoppable, and then he has to watch the timer. But as with most iBomb fights, basically what you do here is, with that in mind, you build up to the special 2, you throw it, and you allow the toxic aura to do its work. So he's now up to 9 poisons on Angela. Needs to get close, land a few more, has to wait out that armor up just in case, but now acid burn is up. And that's what does the real damage. The regen is being kept under control by poisons, and then he just has to hit her a few more times, and because acid burn is up, that does a large amount of direct damage on each hit, finishes it out nice and strong. And because iBomb poisons himself, note that he ended that fight at 100%. So then we're going to head into this Rhino. Again, unstoppable armor. And unstoppable armor also makes Rhino stun immune on his dash-ins. So even when Masochism is on cooldown, you won't be able to deal with that. However, because Masochism in this updated node is Masochism over time, Despair and Poison have more opportunities to deal with it. Additionally, because Immortal Abomination is an extra large character, Rhino is going to go unblockable on his dashes less often. So, not having the best luck on the poisons here, it's supposed to happen just on contact, but so far it looks like that was the first poison. Everything up to this was every Masochism trigger before this was the weakness triggers from Rhino hitting into his block. So that was actually really terrible RNG for the first part of the match, but got the Toxic Aura up, was not able to stay super aggressive with it, so was not able to keep it paused, and so now it's gone, but moved into Acid Burn, throws this. The special one has a lot of hits, so that's a lot of direct damage, and we've got Rhino very low. He is going to heal back up. We kind of have to start the fight over here, but given how clean the first half of the fight was, starting it over with Rhino at about a third health, not the biggest deal in the world. So paying attention to the unstoppable armor procs, coming back in, still not the greatest poison RNG on this fight. So if you get lucky, this could actually look a lot prettier. Right there stops the combo right at exactly the right spot, but then does punish a little early. That's what Indestructible boosts are for. But that Indestructible boost, getting hit, allowed him to stay close while he had the Toxic Aura up, moved into Acid Burn, and then allowed him to finish off the fight. So you could argue that was worth the hit. We do have Gray boosts for a reason. Then we move on to Toad here against Nick Fury. Now, Toad does have access to a slow, but that's not the way you normally play him for these fights. The important things here are trying to play around Mixmaster, trying to land those paralytic poisons, spamming special ones for that reason, because that allows you to land more poisons. It gives you the regen to top up in case Nick does throw specials. But the big thing here is just trying to make sure that there are a lot of those paralytic poison debuffs on Nick when you get him to 0%. Because when that happens, as we all know, Nick is going to shrug all effects on him, including all of the paralytic poison debuffs. But when that happens against a skill defender, Toad has a 70% chance to turn each shrugged debuff into a passive. And because those are all poisons, that's going to significantly cut down on Nick's healing rate as he tries to go back up to full, and it's going to continue to do damage to him. So you'll notice there's a few times here where Nick has evaded. Meta said flat out for this fight, he was a bit nervous. He's only used Toad, I think, twice before this, and this is Nick Fury on a mini-boss. I can understand why. But as long as he makes sure that he's ready to stop his combos when Fury evades and is ready to block again because he's a mutant, Fury isn't gaining as many tactical charges, isn't going unblockable, and he's able to just close out the fight taking very little damage against a very dangerous opponent. There are other options for that Fury, but Toad completely bypassing the second life is really elegant, fun to see. So next up we have Dr. Doom on arguably the worst node on the map at the moment, and that is this Defective Defense Window of Opportunity node here. Node 26, the mini-boss on the right side in Section 2. It's ugly. Every time you block, you get a disorient on you, it reduces your block proficiency, and so you take tons of damage. Doom has block penetration and high base attack to begin with. It's not fun, but iBomb is going to gain a ton of poisons here. He got extra ones because he threw that special one, which puts a long Petrify on Doom, thus preventing him from activating his aura, which is where a lot of the problems come from. The importance of keeping that Petrify up means that going for the special 2 and trying to end this fight quickly with Toxic Aura is not necessarily the safest option. It probably works if you can stay aggressive enough, but if the AI doesn't cooperate, you're really setting yourself up for danger there. Having 8 poisons on the opponent plus the Petrify is doing plenty of damage, honestly. And then if he could just get one more, he does manage to get up Acid Burn even without the special 2 right at the end, and finishes off a rank 4 Dr. Doom. So I want to point out here, even without Acid Burn, except right at the end, more than half of the damage done to Doom was poison. The whole fight took less than 80 seconds, and Immortal Abomination only took 30% of health despite all of those disorients and despite being heal blocked for the entire time. Now, obviously that would have been way worse without the Defiance tag, because then you would have had to deal with Mystic Dispersion, but at least while we have that, really, really good option for that fight. So then we move on to Jabari on Kinetic Transference. This is going to be back to Toad, and Toad is just an amazing option for Jabari. Because remember what we talked about, whenever a skill champion purifies one of his paralytic poison debuffs, you have a high chance to turn it into a passive. Additionally, Toad gains a lot of prowess charges, and every time an attacker gains prowess against Jabari, she's going to lose Huntress charges. So watch here, as Meta gains prowess, watch those Huntress charges actually go down, which means that he can afford to parry her. He can afford to trigger the cleanse and give her extra charges, because then they're going to go back down. So he doesn't have to worry about all of that nonsense that happens with her going completely stun immune, turning off your ability to dex, the things that make Jabari truly scary. Additionally, because he's converting so many of those poisons into passives and just doing reliable damage against her through the cleanse, Aspect of Evolution doesn't really have a chance to come into play here, and he cuts through her rather small health pool very quickly. Love sending that fight when we can. Operates on basically the same principles as Magneto House of X or Storm Pyramid X against Jabari. This one just happens to have a lot of poison. So then we heal up iBomb to take on this Mojo here. You've seen me take this same fight with Reed. You've seen Spider-Man 2099 do it. It's not the hardest fight on the map anymore, especially with Defiance up, but Immortal Abomination is yet another excellent option. His Petrify is not the strongest in the game, so you're not going to be just sitting there blocking a bunch of hits relying on it to turn off Kinetic Transference, but he is going to do an absolute ton of damage, and Defiance turns off most of Mojo's nonsense. So let's see how high the prompts get, because normally that would be an issue. He can also freely dash back without worrying about triggering decks, even when anti-life field is up, which makes it easier to bait Mojo. Right there, he did get caught in a second because, XL champions are still where the worst of the input problems are. But then he gets up to a special 2, throws it, and now we really start closing out the fight. Mojo has not gotten up to 5, so we haven't really showcased the strength of Defiance, but Meta's hitting into his block. Just being close is enough with the Toxic Armor to keep placing poisons. Acid Burn goes up, and Mojo is down inside of a minute, only 54 seconds. So I wanted to show you guys this war because I think both of these attackers are pretty badly underrated right now. I think iBomb has been underrated for a while, but especially while Defiance makes him this good against Mystics. If you have one lying around that you're not putting on defense, find something to do with him. Because these fights, Meta played them very well, but these are really good matchups. And Toad as well, I know, is newer, so I'm not saying that it's, people have been sleeping on him. He's almost brand new. But this is what he can do in war. He is definitely at his best against skill champions. There are other places where his damage is not nearly as good, but there are a lot of annoying skill defenders right now. And so I think that on its own is still worth something. So keep in mind, both of these incredible attackers are in the current feature crystal. I know that a lot of people are trying to skip it and save for the next one because it looks great, but maybe think twice about that, because I'm going to continue to open them. I did pull Immortal Abomination. I'm very happy about that, and I hope to pull Toad in the future, because seeing these fights from Meta has just really made me appreciate both of them, and I'm very glad I have them in the BG. So, huge thanks to Meta for sending me these fights. I always really appreciate that. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe you have a new champion you're interested in. And until next time, thanks so much for watching, and take care.